Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Hare.
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Ram, Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram.
Ram, Hare Hare.
So today we're talking about Canto 3, Chapter 14, Text 27. But right before that, I'm going to just mention a few things from Text 26 that we read yesterday. And it says, Lord Shiva is so great that he does not care for the material prosperity for which every one of us is so eager. Parvati, who is the powerful material nature personified, is under his full control as his wife. Yet, he does not use her even to build a residential house. He prefers to remain without shelter, and his great wife also agrees to live with him humbly. People in general worship Goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity. But Lord Shiva engages her in his service without material desire. He simply advises his great wife that of all kinds of worship, the worship of Vishnu is the highest. And greater than that, the worship of a great devotee or anything in relation with Vishnu. So here we see that Lord Shiva and his wife Durga Mata are so powerful, but yet they both are living very, let's say, uh, very much tapasya without caring for material prosperity. So Parvati is powerful material nature personified, and Lord Shiva is so great that he does not care for material prosperity, for which every one of us is so eager. And Parvati, who is the powerful material nature personified, is under his full control as his wife. Yet he does not use her even to build a residential house. That means she doesn't have a house and doesn't have any of the amenities that normal people have. So, but on the other hand, people worship Parvati, or the goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity. So these are lessons that we can learn. And what is the lesson? The lesson is that great personalities like Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati, although they have so much power, they can enjoy as much sense gratification as they want. They can have all the so-called amenities, desirable things, material things, but they live very much renounced. And that is, they're not caring for material prosperity. So this is an anomaly. I mean, you would think people so powerful would have all the amenities and all types of sense gratification, but no. And that's a lesson for us that it's better to live a very simple life, not be over exaggerated or engaging in all kinds of opulence. Rather, the greatest opulence is self-control. There's even the Muslims, they talk about the outer jihad and the inner jihad. Well, what do they mean by inner jihad? Well, the outer jihad, they have to a man or woman has to learn to control themselves. And the inner jihad is that you have to also control your thoughts and your desires and your goals in life to be able to serve God without any false assumptions and false ego. So there's the outer jihad and the inner jihad. Outer jihad is waging war with your enemies, and the inner jihad is waging war with your mind and that might be prone to going out of control and desiring all kinds of nonsense things. So also, Lord Shiva is so great that he does not care for material prosperity, for which every one of us is so eager. Parvati, who is the powerful material nature personified, is under his full control as his wife. Yet he does not use her even to build a residential house. He prefers to remain without shelter, and his great wife also agrees to live with him humbly. People in general worship goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity, but Lord Shiva engages her in his service without material desire. He simply advises his great wife that of all kinds of worship, the worship of Vishnu is the highest, and greater than that is the worship of a great devotee or anything in relation with Vishnu. Very interesting points being made here. And if we meditate on these points, we realize the importance of living a very simple life, not becoming, let's say, enamored or not becoming overwhelmed by the desire for sense gratification and opulence. Those two things, sense gratification and opulence, can actually corrupt a person, or they can be used in the service of Krishna. We have examples like in ISKCON, we have one of the grandsons of Henry Ford, and he's become a devotee. And he's been a devotee now for a long time, and great servant to Srila Prabhupada. It's sort of, yeah, he has like at least $80 million, and he's inherited from the Ford family. But he's used a lot of his money to serve Srila Prabhupada. So that means that he is not only a devotee, but a devotee with great, let's say, ability to help the movement. And on the other hand, live a very simple life without too much extravaganza. And also he's very humble and a kind person is not like corrupted by his wealth to engage in sense gratification, but he uses his wealth in Prabhupada's service. That's the way to use wealth. It's to engage in the service of pure devotees to expand the preaching of Krishna consciousness and expand the movement's ability to help others become Krishna conscious. So now today we're going to start with the text 27, Canto 3, Chapter 14, text 27. Although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle a mass of nescience, in other words, dismantle ignorance, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva's uncivilized, devilish characteristics are never abominable because he teaches the sincere devotees of the Lord how to practice detachment from material enjoyment. He is called Mahadeva, or the greatest of all demigods, and no one is equal to or greater than him in the material world. He is almost equal with Lord Vishnu, although he always associates with Maya, Durga. He is above the reactionary stage of the three modes of material nature, and although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. So somebody has to help the most fallen and most degraded people in the world. Otherwise, there's going to be chaos in society. So that's why Lord Shiva is considered most merciful of all persons, because he's willing to spend time helping the most fallen people to make spiritual advancement. So that requires tremendous self-control. And that requires having a lot of love and respect for the Supreme Personality, Godhead Krishna, to be able to deal with the most fallen people. So that's why it says, no one is equal to or greater than him, Lord Shiva, in the material world. He is almost equal with Lord Vishnu, although he always associates with Maya, Mother Durga. He is above the reactionary stage of the three modes of material nature. And although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. Well, we should not try and imitate in such Lord Shiva, because he has, of course, supernatural powers. But we should understand what he's doing. He's trying to help the rejects, what every other guru or all those persons that other gurus may reject. He tries to help them to become Krishna conscious. And it's not easy to do such a thing. I mean, why would some exalted person reject very fallen people? But it's difficult to deal with them because they have so many bad habits and so forth, and sometimes they're dangerous. But yet, that's why Lord Shiva is the most merciful, because he'll take that risk and try and help such fallen people. Okay. Now, you can only do that if you're not, let's say, yourself affected by the three modes of material nature. And what is the symptom of being under the control of the three modes of material nature? It's engaging in sense gratification. It's being attracted by mundane things. And that's why Lord Shiva is always engaged in meditation on Lord Vishnu. So it doesn't become under the influence of material nature or Durga. Okay, now Durga is not devilish herself. She's also a pure devotee, but she has a task of putting people in illusion, into illusion, and then smashing them. First, she gives people that have strong material desires success, and then she takes it away from them, so they're devastated, realize that they made a mistake. And this happens a lot. Like you have someone like Hitler. He was tremendously successful for some short period of time, maybe 11 and 12 years, and then he was smashed completely, you know. And all his followers were smashed, and it was just, just a catastrophe what happened to all his followers. So he had a period where he was very, very successful, and then he was very, very, let's say, destroyed. And all the people that were following him were admiring him. They were also, destroyed in a catastrophic way. So we have to be careful of who we follow. If we follow someone who's not a good person, even though we may be good people, we may, try and be a good person and so forth. But if we follow a bad person, even though we might be sincere or whatever, we suffer because we chose the wrong person to follow. So this is important. So one time there was a person who was a guru, and he had a lot of disciples, but actually he was what you would call a person who would drink water underwater on a fast day. In other words, in order to not be caught breaking the fast, he would drink water underwater. In other words, when you dip your head underwater, no one actually sees what you're doing. And then he would drink water, and then he'd come back on the surface of the water as if he didn't drink anything. So you don't want to be a follower of someone who does things like that, because you'll be misled. So when it says here that Lord Shiva, although he always associates with Maya or Durga, he is above the reactionary stage of the three modes of material nature. And although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. How is that possible? That's because he's always meditating on Lord Krishna. And he also says that the highest benediction that he can give is to help someone become a devotee of Lord Krishna. And that seems to be some kind of what you would call oxymoron, that he himself is a great personality, and he's associating with he's sometimes acting or uncivilized or devilish characteristics. But what he's doing is teaching sincere devotees of the Lord how to practice detachment from material enjoyment. Well, that is the, let's say, the line that separates a devotee from a non-devotee. One may be a devotee, but if they're attached to material enjoyment, they become stained with improper desires. And because of that, they can deviate from Krishna consciousness. So therefore, somebody has to give a what you would call a dramatic example of being renounced. And that's basically what Shiva does. He teaches sincere devotees or how to practice detachment from material enjoyment. And that's real education. That means that a person is able to control their mind and their senses, and in that way pursue progressive Krishna consciousness without deviating. And it's not an easy thing to do in this material world today. Okay, so there are these three different modes: nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. The devotee always tries to stay in the mode of goodness, and by continually staying in the mode of goodness, they get eventually elevated to the mode of transcendental goodness, where they're no longer affected by anything in the material world. Even the mode of goodness is still in the material world. So there's such thing as transcendental goodness, or Suddha so now, when one can reach that pinnacle of spiritual practice, they're no longer under the influence of any of the modes. The mode of goodness is also a mode that keeps someone in the cycle of birth and death. Although they're like a first-class prisoner, and there are second-class prisoners, third-class prisoners, so forth. So being a first-class prisoner may be better than being a second-class or third-class prisoner, but you're still a prisoner. But on a, let's say, a higher level of practice, but you're still a prisoner. So one has to be completely free of the attachment to sense gratification and being completely dedicated to serving the Lord. So one example of people that may be in mode of goodness, but not completely, let's say, in completely surrendered to the Lord, is when they take a vacation. Now, there's different kinds of vacations. If the vacation is to go somewhere and enjoy sense gratification, that is not good. But if the vacation is going on parikrama with devotees in holy dham, that's good. So there's vacation and vacation. So the vacation which one engages in sense gratification is not good, but the vacation where one seeks out the association of genuine devotees, hears their lectures, goes in parikrama with them, etc. That it's not really a vacation, that is associating more, let's say, intensely with the advanced devotees. Okay, so therefore, although he always associates, this is like Shiva, with Maya, Durga, he is above the reactionary stage of the three modes of material nature. And although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. Now, this is something we should not try and emulate or do. And or try and do like Lord Shiva, because he has the power to not be affected by the association of these so-called devilish characters. However, some devotees will take the chance to help people who are very, very fallen and have so-called devilish characteristics. But it's always dangerous to do that, because there's always a possibility of falling down. But the devotees may take that risk because they want to help people, all kinds of people, become Krishna conscious. So, yeah, there's this one devotee that a long time ago, Krishna consciousness in Paris, he was always chanting Hare Krishna. Never anyone would see him, he'd be chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And you try to talk to him, he would just go Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Only chant Hare Krishna all the time. Well, that's good, right? Then one day he sort of disappeared from the temple and didn't come back for a couple of days. And when he came back, we asked him, so where were you? He said, well, I was preaching. And so preaching, who? To who? And he said, oh, there was this one lady I was preaching to. And he said he was teaching her how to chant Hare Krishna. So he said, so why didn't you come back at night? Well, I got so involved in preaching that I forgot to come back to the temple. Now, of course, he was lying, saying all that. And he fell down eventually. So under the pretext that he was preaching, so there's preaching and preaching. In other words, if you break the principles of Krishna consciousness by so-called preaching, that is not preaching. That is becoming a victim of Maya, rather than being able to control the mind and the senses and always staying in the association of devotees. So someone who is really a conscientious devotee, they'll never be alone. They'll always be in the company of other devotees when they're preaching, so that there's no, let's say, it's safer to always be in company of other devotees when you're out there in the material world trying to preach to people, and not be alone. Okay, so text 28. Unfortunate foolish persons, not knowing that he is engaged in his own self, laugh at him. Such foolish persons engage in maintaining the body, which is eatable by dogs, with dresses, ornaments, garments, garlands, and ointments. Well, devotees on the right track of making spiritual advancement avoid opulent food, they avoid opulent clothing, they avoid opulent jewelry and different amenities like that. They live a very simple life, and they're not ostentatious. They're not showing off. Now, I had an auntie who wasn't a devotee, of course, but her the people gave her a nickname as Diamond. They didn't say that to her face, but they would talk to each other. And they referred to her, they called her Diamond. Why? Because whenever we went to her house, I was just a kid, but whenever we went to her house, she had this funny habit of always going like this, oh, hello, how are you? And she'd be showing her diamond and right in your face. So so she got the name Diamond, It's like a joke. Well, it was a joke because she was overwhelmed by the fact that she had such a diamond on her finger, and she wanted to make sure everyone saw it. There are people like that, they're overwhelmed with some material thing, and they're making a show of it all the time. Imagine what would happen if someone stole her diamond. She probably would commit suicide or something. Okay, so when it says that the Maya Durga always Shiva is associates with Maya or Durga, he is above the reactionary stage of the three modes of material nature, and although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. Well, that's just fine. It's wonderful. We shouldn't try and imitate him. We don't have the same powers that he has. So we should always stay in the association of good devotees and avoid the association of bad characters. Someone may have the power, like Lord Shiva, to associate with devilish people and try and help them become good devotees. But we shouldn't try and imitate the Lord Shiva because he has supernatural powers. We don't. There might be some people that can do that, but we should stay on the safe side. Now, does that mean we don't preach? Well, we may. Preaching is something that should be done in the company of devotees. We shouldn't go out there by ourselves into the material world and preach to all kinds of fallen people, because it's very possible, if we're alone, to get influenced by these fallen people. So it's always good to have company of other good devotees and never go out alone and try and change the world, as you say, as people say, or conquer all the fallen souls. We don't have that type of power. Therefore, we should always be accompanied by other devotees, especially when we're outside the temple, and not be alone. Okay, so text 28. Unfortunate foolish persons, not knowing that he is engaged in his own self, laugh at him. Such foolish persons engaged in maintaining the body, which is eatable like dogs, with dresses, ornaments, garlands, and ointments. Purport. Lord Shiva never accepts any luxurious dress, garland, ornament, or ointment. But those who are addicted to the decoration of the body, which is finally eatable by dogs, very luxuriously maintain it as the self. Well, that's the whole point. I'm not this body. Right? But if you believe I am this body and begin to decorate it luxuriously and eat very, what you call tasty food, everything so-called first class, we can easily get puffed up and think that, we're on a higher level than other people. Such persons do not understand Lord Shiva, but they approach him for luxurious material comforts. So that's the point that they don't really understand, because he's engaged in what you would call severe tapasya, but yet people go to him and Mother Durga for material opulence. So there's some oxymoron there. There's something doesn't make sense. You're going to a person who's very, very renounced in order to get opulence, and basically not renounced. So and it doesn't make sense. Why can't we learn what the lesson is? The lesson is they're demonstrating that the right way to live is to be very simple and renounced and very humble, not to be showing off your opulence and surrounding yourself with all kinds of opulent things that can contaminate a person. So, therefore, it says, such persons do not understand Lord Shiva, but they approach him for luxurious material comforts. Well, they don't understand him. He's engaging in tapasya, severe tapasya, but they come to him for luxurious material comforts. They do the same thing for Mother Durga. There are two kinds of devotees of Lord Shiva. One class is the gross materialists, seeking only bodily comforts from Lord Shiva, and the other class desires to become one with him. They are mostly impersonalists and prefer to chant Shivoham, I am Shiva, or after liberation, I shall become one with Lord Shiva. In other words, the karmis and jnanis are generally devotees of Lord Shiva, but they do not properly understand his real purpose in life. Sometimes so-called devotees of Lord Shiva imitate him in using poisonous intoxicants, meaning marijuana and things like that. Lord Shiva once swallowed an ocean of poison. and thus his throat became blue. The imitation Shivas tried to follow him by indulging in poisons, and thus they are ruined. Yeah, like for example, there are followers of Lord Shiva that smoke ganja or different types of intoxicants. And there was this one person I knew. He dressed like Lord Shiva. He looked like Lord Shiva, and his girlfriend, dressed like Parvati and looked something like Parvati. And whenever they would walk around in public, he would always have a trident in his hand. And he dressed, something like Lord Shiva. So people would be like really shocked seeing him. And then his girlfriend, would be always following him, and she looks something like Parvati. Right? So, and then they also lived in a cave, and people would come to their cave to have darshan and to be blessed. So they would come with their ganja, and they would ask the so-called Shiva and his wife Durga to bless the ganja, and they would, I don't know, take one puff or something like that, and then give it back to them. And now they felt as if, they were smoking blessed ganja. A lot of crazy things in life, I don't know, you're safe, you're not seeing these things, but you start going around in the world, and this was in France. You go around the world and you start seeing all these crazy, crazy things that are happening. So, and he dressed like Shiva and would walk around in public like that, with his, what do you call that?
Trident.
Yes. And he would, and by the way, they lived in a cave, he and his girlfriend. So you'd have to go to the cave to get the blessings. What was the blessing? The blessing was that they would give the ganja to them first to be blessed, and then they would take it and feel as if, the ganja that they're smoking now is blessed. So in this world, there are a lot of phony people that do very, very funny things. They're not funny, but very extreme things to be recognized. So we can't emulate Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati because they're much more exalted and much more powerful than we are. But some people try and imitate them. It's actually very sad thing to see. Therefore, devotees usually are humble. Not usually. They cultivate humility, and they cultivate regular hearing and chanting in the company of genuine devotees, and avoiding any, let's say, strange behavior. When a person thinks that they are Lord Shiva and they try and dress like Lord Shiva and try and have followers, and they bless the ganja that they're going to smoke and things like that, that means they've gone crazy. They've lost their mind and become false followers of Lord Shiva. So it says that there are two kinds of devotees of Lord Shiva. One is the gross materialist seeking only bodily comforts from Lord Shiva, and the other class desires to become one with him. They are mostly impersonalists and prefer to chant Shiva Hum, I am Shiva, or after liberation, I shall become one with Lord Shiva. In other words, The karmis and gyanis are generally devotees of Lord Shiva, but they do not properly understand his real purpose in life. Sometimes so-called devotees of Lord Shiva imitate him in using poisonous intoxicants. Lord Shiva once swallowed an ocean of poison, thus his throat became blue. The imitation Shivas try to follow him by indulging in poisons, meaning like trying to smoke marijuana and so forth, and thus they are ruined. The real purpose of Lord Shiva is to serve the soul of the soul. First, in other words, the soul with capital S of the soul with a small s, meaning capital S meaning Krishna, and so and small s meaning the Jiva, living entity. So the real purpose of Lord Shiva is to serve the soul of the soul, meaning Lord Krishna, who is the super soul of the individual's minute soul. He desires that all luxurious articles, such as nice garments, garlands, ornaments, and cosmetics, be given to Lord Krishna only, because Krishna is the real enjoyer. He refuses to accept such luxurious items himself because they are only meant for Krishna. However, since they do not know this purpose of Lord Shiva, foolish persons either laugh at him or profitlessly try to imitate him. And this is a fact. This is truthful what Prabhupada is saying here. All right, so Krishna, Lord Shiva, he refuses to accept such luxurious items himself because they're only meant for Krishna. Well, that's what we do. We give Krishna all opulent things, but we didn't try and imitate Krishna by also having all opulent things. We live very simply. That's why in ancient times, people would sacrifice everything to build opulent temples, but they would live very simply. But they didn't miss opulence because they would go every day to the opulent temple and be in the company of, opulence, but the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they themselves would live in very simple and humble. And so when you go to holy Gams in India, especially in South India, you'll see very, very opulent temples. But the Brahmanas, and there's usually a Brahmana section, Vaishya section, like that, in these towns, the four different types of people living in let's say, their communities. So you have the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras. But they all come together in the main temple. And they are, let's say, living simple lives themselves, but because they spend a lot of time in the temple, they're also appreciating the opulence of the Lord. In other words, they give the opulence to the Lord, they themselves live very simply. So they're not missing opulence because they're coming in and seeing the opulent worship of the Lord and feeling very happy to see them. But they themselves live very simple lives and do not try and imitate living like the Lord. So there are some people that like to imitate living God, and they usually are smashed over time. Maybe not in the beginning, but in the long run, they're smashed because they're trying to imitate God and misleading people. So we should not be. Well, I remember, a long time ago, there was this one very nice devotee, but at one point, he started to act very strangely, and he had many disciples, and that strange behavior he started to show. A lot of people misinterpreted that as him achieving some kind of transcendental state. So he would sit on the Vyastone and start to chant in a very strange way. And everyone thought, oh, he's in Samadhi. Mm-hmm. So the word got around, and then devotees started coming from different parts of Europe to see him in London, because they thought he's the first person among, the devotees at that time that had attained, pure love of Krishna. But it turned out that his strange type of chanting and swooning and different things like that was because he was taking marijuana. And he did that. Why did he do it? Because he wanted to be the first amongst all the devotees, let's say this guy, who attained the highest pinnacle of Krishna consciousness, and was trying to imitate the behavior of let's say devotees who have complete love for Krishna, by chanting in a very strange way, and swooning, and going into samadhi, all those nonsense things that are misinterpreted as being very, very advanced. There are some people, like I know this is very common amongst Hindus, usually women. I've experienced this. At one time, let's say that so-and-so Mata has been now possessed of Mother Kali. And then she faints. I saw this happen several
times. Mostly in villages, Maharaj.
Huh?
Mostly in villages, you'll see a lot.
Everywhere?
Villages, in different villages. Yeah. Each village has some Gram Devata.
Yes, someone like this. She faints, and everyone just sit there quietly, and maybe touch her or something, and they're waiting for her to come out of samadhi, right? And they say that Mata has entered into her body. So it's very interesting. And then afterwards, they treat her with tremendous, respect and so forth. I saw that several times, and I was thinking to myself, look, is this for real, or is she faking the whole thing? It's not clear. Well, also one time I went to see this one so-called saint, and he was a dynamic speaker, and he had a lot of followers. And after he would finish his lecture, they would bring him a pipe so he could smoke marijuana. And I couldn't understand why they were doing that, but he was basically a nonsense person, but he acted like he was, some great personality, spiritual personality. He had a lot of followers, and after he would give his lecture or whatever, they would bring him ganja to smoke in a pipe. And so I had a friend of mine. He was a follower of that person, so he insisted that I come with him to see this person and experience his lecture and so forth. So I went. I was dressed like a devotee, shaved head and everything at that time, and I sat there and I listened to him. And then I saw, his disciples after the lecture, they brought him some ganja to smoke. And, I wasn't really impressed by him that much, but everybody else was very,
Enamored.
treating him like, his God. And then what did he do? When he finished speaking, he gets up and walks directly toward me and goes like this to my bead bag. He said, "What is this?" And I said, "It is my bead bag." He said, "This is not good." I can remember that the way he did it, like he was real serious about it. Everyone else was surprised. And then he says a few nonsense things to me. And then, he walked away and everyone came around and said, "Oh, you got Maharaj's mercy." What was his mercy? He was trying to tell me, this Hare Krishna thing, chanting Hare Krishna, it's not the right thing. You're doing the wrong thing. You come and follow me. So then the friend that took me to see him, he was so excited. He said, "Oh, he gave you his mercy." I didn't feel like he gave me mercy. I felt like he contaminated me. So how is it that some people think this imposter is a pure devotee and other people can see him as an imposter? Well, that separates what you'd say the men from the boys. The boys are people who have lesser intelligence, less training in how to become a genuine devotee, and they follow these imposters. And other people who are properly trained, they're not fooled by the imposters. Okay? So it's very important that we associate only with genuine devotees. Now, the imposters sometimes, because of their flamboyant behavior or their, let's say, their Shakti, sometimes people are attracted to them. So that sort of separates the devotees from the pretendant devotees. The pretenders, they're associated by the phonies, and the genuine devotees are attracted by genuine devotees. So we have to be careful because this type of who we're attracted to. If we're attracted by a phony who is pretending to be some kind of incarnation of God, we should realize that we've been duped, that we've been fooled, and then we haven't been properly educated in Krishna consciousness. That's why people become followers of these phony so-called incarnations of God. And there's so many of them. In fact, if you announce in India, I guess on Doordarshan on television, will the real incarnation of God stand up? How many people do you think would stand up? Thousands of people. And they look at each other, like this. Well, you say you're God, and I'll say, you say I'm God, and I'll say you're God, and we're okay. They have this little private agreement. As long as you say you're God, and I say I'm God, and you don't argue with me, I don't argue with you. You have your following, I have my following. In other words, I have a piece of the pie, and you have a piece of the pie, and then we can go on merrily like this. So sometimes Prabhupada would be invited to a program where there would be other, let's say, so-called enlightened gurus, and he would refuse to go. He said, "Why should I go there?" And, they have, basically they're Mayavadis, and it would be bad association for Prabhupada to go there and sit with them and act as if they are bona fide. So he would refuse to go when he'd be invited with where there's a whole bunch of other Mayavadis sitting at the table or present at the program. So we have to be careful who we associate with. And we have to recognize who is bona fide and who's not bona fide. Okay, so here we see that Shiva is very great, and his renunciation of all material enjoyment is an ideal example of how one should be materially unattached. One should therefore follow his footsteps and be unattached to matter, not imitate his uncommon acts like drinking poison. So we can't emulate, or in other words, copy everything Lord Shiva does, because we don't have the same power that he has. But we can learn from his example of, let's say, Lord Shiva is completely dedicated to Lord Krishna. He is not an independent God. He is subordinate to the Lord. A lot of people treat him like this independent God on the same level or even greater than Lord Krishna. That's their misfortune. But Shiva himself would say that his best benediction for his disciples is to take them to Krishna, to get them interested in following Lord Krishna. So, like for example, when there's this person who was considered like a real great sadhu, and he was going to build a temple for Govinda, and his disciples started to build the temple for Govinda, but then the guru died, and instead of
Shirdi Sai Baba?
Yes, Sai Baba, yeah. And instead of finishing,
Krishna temple he wanted to build. That was the
one break each and each one go. Finally, he dies instead of putting responsibility to put powers.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So,
No, I didn't know that.
that's why you come to us. Yeah, I mean, Baba had the right idea that they should build a temple for Lord Krishna, but they ended up building the temple for Baba. And it's still going on today. So it's very important that we don't get the Babas mixed up. All right, so the whole idea is that we should follow the example of Shiva, his example of being materially unattached. One should therefore follow in his footsteps and be unattached to matter, not imitate his uncommon acts like drinking poison. Okay.
I think that point is also very significant because one of the definitions of the Supreme Lord is he's a supreme enjoyer. But Lord Shiva shows that he doesn't want material opulence, which also should give an indication. Yeah. So that means that they're not the Supreme Lord. They're in turn demonstrating something for us, which is in this case what Prabhupada says, that you should be detached from the material enjoyment and meditate on the Supreme Lord.
Some people get a little bit of power, and all of a sudden they think they're God.
Yes.
People follow them, and because they're able to convince some people to follow them, they begin to think they are God.
Correct.
because they have these followers that treat them like that. So, sometimes some devotees were saying that Prabhupada was the incarnation of Krishna. And Prabhupada was a little upset when, he heard this and he refused, told him, no, I'm not the incarnation of Krishna, I'm just a servant of the Lord. But, if a person doesn't have that same integrity, if people start saying that you're the incarnation of God, they'll accept it. Start acting like they're God. So a real guru will never say that he is God, nor will he let his disciples say that he's God. But there are some gurus, that say, well, I'm not God. But he doesn't stop his disciples from saying so. Okay. So
I think we just time.
Yeah.
Any questions online? You may have.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's not a question. It is regarding majority followers of what I have seen is a Sai Baba or those. They don't have any restrictions. That's why a good amount of people go there. I mean, like they are okay to eat meat or anything. It doesn't stop them from that's why that becomes more easier for them to go. That's what I have heard.
Okay, so that's what you heard, but you haven't experienced.
I'm like I have to I have experienced with many of even like I feel bad to say it like many Odia people go to Shirdi Sai Baba, not like they are Jagannath followers, but like Shirdi Sai Baba temple here itself in Seattle. I'm like it's in Bellevue, and I am not able to convince them otherwise. I have tried my way, but no.
Yeah. All right. So, by the way, Shirdi Sai Baba became famous because of Bollywood. There's a film about him, and after that film, he became very prominent. Before that, he was hardly known at all. But once
Like a fakir. He was like a fakir, Maharaj.
yeah, once the film came out, people started worshiping him and became very famous, and now it's continuing. When you get a whole bunch of people going in the wrong direction, then it attracts other people to go in the wrong direction, because they say, well, look at all these other people going in that direction. Maybe I should be there too.
Follow the lemmings.
Yeah, follow the lemmings and go over the cliff. Okay, thank you. So, Sai Baba is a person who lived like a sadhu, because he lived like a sadhu. By the way, he was a Muslim. The Muslims rejected, but the idiot Hindus accepted him. The Muslims themselves, they rejected him because, they said he was deviating from Islam, right? But then the Hindus accepted him as some kind of incarnation of God or something like that, and they, started worshiping him. So that just shows how very badly educated most Hindus are. They'll accept the complete, let's say, unqualified person to be God.
So basically, sir, Maharaj, so they think that like Christianity, if we do anything, that's okay because our guru is going to take care of it. Like it's not going to affect us. There is no sin we are incurring by eating meat or being a part of this killing process of an animal. That doesn't affect us because our guru is going to take care of it. Like Christianity, how they confess and all those things, that kind of mentality they have. Rather, I know people, I'm like my friends, they were used to be more regulated. And after they went to the Shirdi Sai Baba following, they have stopped those kind of regulation, whatever they were even following. Okay, particular days we won't be eating meat. Now they are okay to eat anytime, every time.
Yeah. Basically, people who don't want to transform, or else like who just want to justify their current way of living and then just still be considered in the league of, oh, this is a bona fide path, they take all these other paths. They don't understand that there is a path of purity that is the only path to ultimate realization. They just justify, oh, this person is doing it and they're socially maybe acceptable, or maybe a lot of followers are there, so there is no criteria for judging what is right, what is wrong, because they're not, as you said, they're not educated on what is.
I think the criteria of what is right, what is wrong, nobody teaches Maharaj. Because everybody says, okay, be nice, be a good person, do whatever you want, but be a good person and help others. I think that's what. So most people want to help others. So there is some service projects. Usually they're teaching good things. So people will go, and there's no restriction. People don't want to have any constraints. And that is the.
They don't want to be part of any organized religion.
Yes. That, and they don't want any rules.
No, it's not about organized religion. A religion that doesn't put restrictions.
Yeah.
So that's what they want.
Because they all want some kind of goodness, but they want it in their own terms. Like no restrictions, no bounds. But there is good things like, okay, you go sing bhajans. Usually you do service projects. So everybody likes that. And okay, I want that for my kids. Because right now they put Shirdi Sai Baba right next to Krishna. Wherever you go, it's most of temples. So he's one of the gods. How he is a god, nobody asks that question.
Following the crowd.
Yeah.
Well, eventually they become convinced that he's God.
Yes, everybody's convinced.
Yeah.
I was convinced because I used to go to Sat Sai Baba. I was convinced. Baba never said he is God in any of his lectures. But I think what you said earlier, if you're bona fide, because I went to a lot of Sri Vaishnava lectures when I was a child. My parents used to take me. They used to always talk about Sundara Kanda, which is Hanuman, or Lord Rama's qualities. Never say, whoever was teaching never acted like he was a god. He would always say like Rama is God and then teach the teachings. Glorify. So whereas with Sat Sai Baba, I forgot all of those and I used to go to Sat Sai Baba and he will teach all good things. Whatever he did, his life is a lesson. Very, very good example. But then when all the other people call him, they all treat him as God. I don't think they tell that, no, don't do that. They won't say that. They'll have all the other gods in his main temple, but nobody will object. I mean, he will not object his devotees if they treat him like God.
Yeah.
I think that is the difference.
Yeah.
Well, that means that if you're not educated, it's devoted properly.
Yeah.
It's nice to be considered God, being God. People give you nice prasadam, they give you money, they give you respect. But ultimately, people get misdirected in life. Even though they show good qualities and so forth, but it's just like you can buy, very expensive, clothing or ring or something, and you can buy an imitation of it. The imitation looks almost exactly like the very expensive, the real one, but most people can't tell the difference between the imitation and the real one. So, but the same thing happens with some people choose to follow someone who's not actually bona fide because they don't see any difference between that person and the other people who are bona fide. It's the same thing. Well, that's because they're not educated properly. how do you recognize a genuine sadhu? Well, genuine sadhu, first of all, is in a bona fide parampara. So, was Sai Baba in a bona fide parampara? I'm not sure. I don't know. They talk about his parampara.
No, I don't think, right?
What Maharaj?
Does he talk about a parampara?
No. All of these people is don't
They talk about someone called Baba. There's some guy named Baba who's their parampara.
there's no parampara or
So that's first no. And then they do other things too that are against the genuine Vaishnava behavior. So pretty soon, you have an organized deviation. And people, because it's organized, people think, oh, it's bona fide. So we have to, just like when my friend took me to see this one Baba, he was a Muslim, but he was getting a lot of attention by a lot of people. I forget his name now. He died. But when I went there, I was dressed like a devotee. And I listened to one of his lectures. And at the end of the lecture, his disciples brought him they brought him a cigarette or some kind of tobacco thing to smoke. 1 or 2 puffs, and that right away I was really confused there. So the lecture he gave, I didn't understand much what he said. But when I saw that, then I realized he was really funny. But after the lecture, he gets off his asana and he walks directly toward me. Well, there's a lot of people in the room. He walks directly toward me and goes like this. He patted my bead bag and he said, "This is not right." I don't know why he did that. I guess he was trying to convince me that I was following the wrong guru. And then after that, everyone came around. This whole gave blessings to you. You're so fortunate. I felt it. I got contaminated by this. He tried to. In other words, this little activity that he did was to convince me that chanting Hare Krishna is the wrong thing. So they think it was wonderful what he did. I think it was horrible what he did. So
Maharaj, but some people also feel ISKCON is also like that.
okay,
Like a organized cult or a sect. And then they don't unfortunately, they don't spend time to understand that this is a bona fide parampara and this is coming from the succession. But outside, they have an impression. Most of them have that impression. It's very unfortunate they don't take time, but
well, in the world, there's sects and there's insects. Well, that's why devotees should have impeccable behavior so that they cannot be criticized. I mean, people falsely criticize, but if it's a false criticism, honest people will realize it. Dishonest people will accept anything. But it's up to the devotees to behave properly. So, it's a strange thing. Mao Zedong's wife said that worship is better than sex. And what does she mean by that? Well, she and her husband were being worshipped like they were God by their followers. So she says it's better than sex to be worshipped because.
Who was that, Maharaj?
Huh?
Who was that? Who said that?
Mao Zedong's wife. Mao Zedong.
Mouse.
Oh, okay.
so basically the high she is getting out of getting worshipped is higher than wow.
Yeah. No wonder.
So that's what the celebrities and everybody gets a
Yeah.
kick out of it.
once you get, glorified, you have a following, then you actually think, well, maybe I am God. So it's best to always remain humble and have a bona fide guru that you follow in a bona fide disciplic succession. You usually, in these so-called incarnations of God, they're not in any bona fide sampradaya. They might say, "Oh, we're following the Babaji or something like that," but it's not a bona fide sampradaya, and they're just making things up as they go along. And because people are uneducated, they think whatever they say. Like if you go to Satguru, the first thing he says is, "I don't read literatures,
Scriptures.
Yeah,
scriptures."
he says, I haven't read the scriptures.
Yeah. So immediately he cuts you off from any way of knowing if he's bona fide or not.
Yeah.
Because he the first thing he did, I don't read scriptures. So now you have to believe whatever he says, rather than he might say something and you can check in the scriptures if what he's saying is true or false. Huh? But he rejected the scriptures. So there's no way you can determine if he's bona fide.
There's no triangle of verification.
There's triangle, yeah. There's no triangle of verification, exactly right. Yeah.
I think last time,
Yeah, the Acharyas and you have present guru. If they all say the same thing, you can close the triangle of verification. I thank you for saying that.
You taught us in the class.
Huh?
You taught us in the
Yeah,
class.
yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we'll stop there. Over to the
Prabhupada ki jai. Any other question? Yeah, Pradyumna Prabhu.
No. I don't have a question. I just want to add something. Like since Mataji brought up that Sai Baba thing, Sangeeta Mataji. So I know the history of that group. I know the history of that group because I have seen them closely and how it started and how it evolved and everything. So there is a guru from Orissa, the Chandrababu Satpati Guru, and he thinks that they think that he's a Sai Baba incarnation, blah blah blah. Anyway, but most of the thing, like Maharaj, in India, the 99% people actually get attracted because this is like whole materialistic desire. Like if something their desires for somehow they get satisfied, they have start building faith into that particular entities, either Sai Baba or Asaram Bapu or any other Baba or any demigods. So that's how it is. Actually, you always say that India is a khichdi of all those things. At least it's worse than actually Western Abraham Lincoln, at least where we have, sorry, Abrahamic religions, where only one, at least they have just one thing to focus on. For us in India, it's like hundreds and thousands of things to focus. Everybody has their own faith building because based on what they experience. And if they get some material desire satisfied, then they will go follow. So there is nothing, I don't know how to convince them. I tried best my level for one of my friend in that group, but it didn't work out because they have a strong desire to do this. So I think the worst part is like where we in ISKCON we say that like everything we need to validate based on our Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. So that concept is not there in the group. Like they don't read the scriptures, what is written in scriptures. They don't even do any Guru Parampara or they don't have any Guru Parampara. They don't have any Sadhu, but they just follow something based on what experience. So that Baba did some chamatkar, and from that day onwards, they started following him. So, and I know that that group was doing it just like a spiritual entertainment. They used to come together every week or once in a month, have potluck, 5 minutes, 10 minutes arti only for Sai Baba, but rest of the thing, all are materialistic things and this and that, all has different charts. But
Yes.
anyway, that's all messed up. The India thinks a lot of people have deviated from what we have.
Yes, bro.
You are Durga Prabhu. He was a follower.
Yeah. Durga, Kudupati.
Yeah, I think he was a follower of Sai Baba.
Yeah, a lot of people, but only I tell you, right? 99% people are based on what they get. Suppose if they pray for something, oh, my son should get this admission or something, and then it fulfill. Oh, then they build a faith. They don't say any other thing. Yes, this is my God. So that's how it is everywhere. Any material desire, what they have, either they're feeling going through some stress or something, or some materialistic desire, and it get fulfilled either coincidentally or whatever reason, they build the faith and they don't want to see beyond that.
Maharaj, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, when I first met Durga Prabhu, I explained to him that your relationship with Sai Baba, he introduced you to spiritual life. So you can consider him as your Vartma Pradakshika Guru, the first person that introduces you. And then, you met the Hare Krishna people, so they took you a step up to know more about, what's bona fide spiritual master and what is bona fide, worship and so forth. So you have to thank the first person that introduced you to spiritual life, even though it might not be all right when introducing you to, but at least it's something spiritual. So you should respect that his first guru who introduced him to spiritual life is his Vartma Pradakshika Guru. And now, by the mercy of Krishna, he's getting superior, information about who is the actual supreme personality of Godhead. Right? So there's always a beginning of things in life. So you should always respect the people that help you in the beginning. And you should always be thankful that by Krishna's mercy, you came into contact with Krishna consciousness, which will take you to a much higher level of spirituality. So we shouldn't, let's say that, the persons that introduced them, they were all demons, they were nonsense, they didn't know what they're, because obviously the person didn't know anything, and now he learned something, and then that was like the first step, and to help him, get into spiritual life, and now he's taking other steps that are taking more serious, engagement in devotional service. So we shouldn't consider those people, like the Sai Baba people or other, to be evil. What they're doing may not be the best thing, but at least it's something. And if it leads to coming to Krishna consciousness, then it's okay. You can thank those people for introducing this person to spiritual life. If we just condemn everyone and be very negative all the time, Prabhupada himself was not always talking about how this movement or that movement is nonsense. He would say it sometimes, but it was not like a major theme. And his major theme was to glorify Krishna. When there was some controversy, he might have said some things about some gurus, but he's more interested in glorifying Krishna. And that's what attracted devotees to Prabhupada, because he was always, for the most part, positive, and didn't try and say, well, these people are demons and these people are good. And his point was that everyone can become a devotee of Krishna. They just need to have the right association. And there are some people that have a very difficult time becoming Krishna conscious. That's because of their previous karma. But if they are willing to listen and be trained in Krishna consciousness, then they can become genuine devotees.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, Maharaj. So willing to listen,
Yeah. And
willing to be trained.
Yes.
There you go. Hare Krishna. Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Hare Ram. We'll end today's session and we'll see you again in the evening.